Bradamante of Clairmont was a powerful knight. She defended her land from invaders and fought for her love. While Bradamante has many tales told about her, this story is of her falling in love with a noble knight named Ruggiero, and having to rescue him from the clutches of an evil sorcerer. While Bradamante was protecting her family's land from invading forces, she came across the skilled warrior Ruggiero. The two crossed blades and, while fighting, fell in love with one another out of sheer respect for the other's abilities and strength. The next day, while Ruggiero and Bradamante's forces clashed, a large hippogriff crashed between the two, and a blinding light erupted from the beast, blinding Bradamante and all of her forces during the chaos. When she was finally able to see again, she saw the hippogriff flying off with Ruggiero knocked out and attached to its back. Enraged, Bradamante gathered her gear and took off on horseback to rescue the handsome Ruggiero, riding so fast that she was a blur to those on the battlefield. She eventually lost the hippogriff when she hit the forest, however. She tried to find her way through the woods to no avail and finally came upon a fountain in the middle of the wood with a knight laying under a tree. The knight looked to be in a state of deep depression. Bradamante asked the knight if he was all right and if she could help. The knight told Bradamante that his name was Pinable, and that he was depressed because his wife was abducted by a warrior on a hippogriff during a blinding flash of light. Bradamante told the knight that her beloved Ruggiero was also taken by the same warrior and that she was looking for the villain. The knight informed Bradamante that Ruggiero had been helping him with his search before he was called home to fight, and that they had tracked the villain to his heavily fortified castle on top of a mountain. The two agreed to help each other and started looking for the castle again. While searching for the castle, a messenger found Bradamante and Pinable and announced himself as a servant of the court of Clairmont and requested that Bradamante come home to defend her homeland. Pinable now became wary, as he was of the Manganza bloodline, and Clairmonts and Manganzas had been feuding for generations. He feared Bradamante would attack him and mortally wound him if he were to let her know his true identity. This was due to his own urges, however, to attack Bradamante and kill her, but he knew he was no match for the warrior maiden. Bradamante told the messenger that she would come back as soon as she could, but would not be able to at the current moment. She then urged Pinable to continue on with her, so that the two could find their loved ones. Pinable, claiming to look for shelter for the night, led Bradamante to a small cavernous area. Hoping to lose Bradamante, Pinable told the young warrior that to wait for him at the base of the hills, and that he would be back soon to lead her back to camp. After a few moments, he realized that Bradamante had been following him. He asked her why, and she told him that the two should not be separated so that they could protect each other better from their enemy. Pinable the traitor noticed that the cave in front of him had an immediate deep pit in it, and he yelled to Bradamante that he could see a young damsel being attacked at the bottom of the cave and that she needed their help. Bradamante immediately cut a large branch off of a nearby elm tree and told Pinable to hold on to the branch while she made her way down to save the young woman. As Bradamante was making her way down, Pinable saw his chance, grinned wickedly, and dropped Bradamante and left her to perish. Luckily for Bradamante, she held firm to the branch as she dropped, and its foliage and twigs caught on the cave walls as she fell, slowing her descent. She still hit the cave floor hard, though, and it knocked the wind out of her. She looked around the room and saw a door at the far end, and when she had recovered enough to move again, she went through the doorway. The next room was larger than the first, and there was an altar in the middle of the room that radiated light, making the alabaster walls shimmer. A young woman walked in from another door in the room behind the altar and introduced herself as Melissa. She explained to Bradamante that this was the tomb of Merlin, and that his spirit had foretold Bradamante's arrival. Melissa explained further that she was to take Bradamante to where Ruggiero was in the morning, but that Bradamante would need a magical ring in order to save her beloved. Melissa told Bradamante to rest, and in the morning the two would set out and Melissa would show Bradamante the way. The next morning, Melissa and Bradamante traveled through the mountainous area, through precipices and more of the forest until they reached the summit of the mountain, and found the castle wherein which Ruggiero was kept hostage. Bradamante was ready to storm the castle, but Melissa told her that this would not work. She explained that not only was the castle protected by a magical spell, but that the hippogriff that she had seen earlier was ridden by an evil wizard who had a shield that blinded any who looked upon it. But Bradamante was in luck, for there was a knight with a ring that protected its wearer from all magical attacks, and that very knight was in a town at the base of the mountain. Melissa said to Bradamante, "Challenge him to combat and wager him for the ring, and you shall have all that you need." So Bradamante traveled swiftly down the mountain and found the knight Brunello in the town of Bordeaux. She challenged Brunello to a duel for his ring and horse, wagering her purse of coins and her armor. He accepted, thinking that would be an easy fight against such a smaller opponent. Bradamante, however, was able to knock Brunello out cleanly within moments of the fight's beginning, and took the ring from his finger and rode from Bordeaux back to the wizard's castle to save her beloved Ruggiero. When she reached the castle, she began blaring her war horn and shouting insults at the wizard in order to force him from his castle. Agitated and annoyed, the wizard sprang forth on his hippogriff and crashed down in front of Bradamante and her horse. She noticed there was nothing impressive about the wizard. He was a thin man with baggy robes, his shield covered in a cloth, and a book in his other hand. Before the wizard could do anything, Bradamante charged and thrust her lance towards the wizard, who was able to dodge the blow and dismount his hippogriff in one motion. The magician unveiled his shield, and a blinding light erupted from it. Bradamante, protected by the power of her magical ring, feigned being blind to draw the wizard in for her final attack. The wizard pulled out a magical chain to bind Bradamante, and, as he came to whip her with the chain to bind her, she struck the wizard in the side of the head with the pommel of her sword and knocked him out. She then took the magical chains and bound the wizard to a tree. When the wizard woke up, he told the warrior his name was Atlante, and he pleaded with Bradamante to take whatever she wanted, but to leave Ruggiero, as he was the whole reason the wizard built the castle in the first place. Atlante explained that Ruggiero was one of his pupils from long ago, and that he was hoping to save him from a terrible fate. Bradamante explained to him that he had nothing to offer her, as she had defeated him already, and that his shield, which was already slung across her back, and his hippogriff, as it had taken a liking to the pure-hearted maiden, already belonged to her. Bradamante then set to the task of releasing all the prisoners. She was now able to enter the castle normally, as Atlante's magic had been neutralized by his own chains. When she finally was able to release Ruggiero, the two walked together outside, and she explained her journey to save him. She offered to take him home on her new hippogriff. However, Ruggiero was so excited to see the creature that he ran up to it and mounted it before Bradamante could protest. The beast became scared and flew off with Ruggiero westward. Bradamante would continue her journey to find Ruggiero so that they could live happily ever after. But those stories are for another day.